immigration. There has to be a way to accelerate deportations.
Yeah.
What's been your feeling, looking at the numbers, looking at the media narratives, looking at your daily life even?
Yeah.
How is the deportation effort going? What has to happen for it to accelerate?
Yeah. Okay. So, for me personally, this is my number one issue and has been for as long as I've been sort of politically aware. Immigration is the thing. It is the thing that animated Trump to begin with. It is the thing that needs to be focused on above everything else. I think like the underlying question of this administration in this political moment is some decision that needs to be made about who we are as a country. And when I say who we are as a country, that means who embodies the country, the sort of literal people that make up the country. Any democracy is sort of like dependent on pursuing the will of the people. So the first question then for any democracy is who is the people in question? And so immigration really is the fundamental issue of our time. And I think we have, estimates range from 15 million to like 50 million illegals in the country. There are a number of people who are here legally, but maybe ought not to be here legally because of various loopholes that were put in place in the Biden administration, people coming in on very sort of dubious,
sketchy legal territory.
Yeah, yep. Refugee status and all these other things. So we need to look, let me just say this. I am basically, a moderate mainstream Republican, but we need to deport all these people. Okay. I'm sorry to say this. They don't belong here. They are
that
not
is the
citizens of this
moderate,
country.
Mainstream, rational position.
Look, yeah. I'm like tired of like circling around this issue and trying to like step on eggshells and like I just see this all the time. Like mainstream conservatives have lost track of what the base wants, and this is it. This is what the base wants. They want deportations. They want an end to both illegal and legal immigration. We are faced with an inflection point in this country, and if we don't do something about it, we are going to lose track of who we are. We need to put a pause on all of this and then figure out from a cultural and social perspective how we assimilate all of these people who have come here over the last several decades. Okay, so what we've seen is a lot of fireworks, especially when it comes to DHS and ICE activities, but the actual deportations are rather low. Okay. We just have to admit that. When they go into a place like Chicago, despite all of the stuff happening and like all of these reports we're seeing, even in these Chicago raids, they're only getting like in the hundreds of people, maybe the thousands of people, four-figure thousands of people. It's not a huge number. However, to the administration's credit, what this is producing is a lot of remigration. What is remigration? This is a term that I want everybody to familiarize themselves with. Remigration. This is going to be the thing that I think drives a lot of policy, both for the United States and Europe. Remigration is the voluntary return of foreign nationals to their home countries. And they're going to be doing this through some combination of incentives that makes it worthwhile for them to do so. It's to their advantage to do so, and also creating difficulties if they stay. So if you're an illegal immigrant, it's going to be really, really hard to get a job. We're going to make sure we go after employers who are employing illegal immigrants. We might have to send some people to jail to send a message who are abusing the accessibility of illegal immigrants. And in time, people are going to realize that they don't have a home here. They don't have a future here, and they're going to have to go home. Okay, this is harsh. Chris, maybe I'm being too harsh. Tell me I'm being too harsh. That's fine. But I think we need to really ramp up how we are treating this issue and getting creative with how we incentivize people to stop doing business with illegal immigrants and then getting illegal immigrants to go back home.
Yeah, no, I think you're not expressing anywhere near enough empathy and compassion for all of the deeply American Salvadoran MS-13 members with devil tattoos across their forehead. And,
I apologize, okay?
For they are not just as American as George Washington, as John Adams. John Hancock, and the rest of them. No, I mean, look, one of the things I think the Trump administration has done very well, and it's not easy to do, is produce narratives through these deportation enforcement efforts that hammer home the reality that there are certainly many people who are, besides being an illegal immigrant, otherwise, law abiding, trying to do the best they can, following the incentives that are laid out before them. But we do have a problem with many illegal immigrants who are criminals, drug dealers, murderers, rapists. You see all of these stories that are bubbling up, and you have to ask, no sane country would let this criminal population migrate past its borders and embed itself in the United States. And on the larger question, though, as you get rings outward, I think you're exactly right. You can't look. You're never going to have enough muscle, enough kind of logistical force to deport 15 million people, in handcuffs, and then also, it's not possible. It's not practical. It's not feasible. It's probably not wise, because then the narrative is going to turn, because you're going to start making mistakes because you're expanding at such an extraordinary logistical rate. So what do? The solution, as you suggested, is you have to shift the incentives so that there's remigration, sometimes called, self-deportation.
Yeah.
So voluntary exit. And this is where I think the rubber meets the road, and where it's going to be difficult for the Trump administration. For the same reason that Trump is kind of wishy-washy on H-1Bs,
Yeah.
I think he's going to be wishy-washy on how to actually enforce this. And if you want to get 10 million plus people to voluntarily leave the United States, you have to make their current life virtually impossible. You have to freeze them out of the financial system. You have to have punitive taxation on remittances that makes that economic incentive disappear. You have to have other methods of paperwork enforcement, tax enforcement, financial enforcement, that make it very difficult. And I'll tell you, look, I onboarded a new employee not too long ago, and it struck me as I was filling out my onboarding paperwork, right? I have like a payroll service, really great payroll service. Gusto, you guys should sponsor the podcast for sure. But I noticed something very interesting. At no point was I required to provide proof of citizenship. And for me, it was like, this is crazy. You can have somebody in the payroll system, they have a W-2, they pay, you take out taxes, et cetera, and at no point do I need to say that my employee is a United States citizen. My employee is a United States citizen. That's how we do things around here. I know you do the same. But, that's like low-hanging fruit that if the administration were serious, would be a problem that would be solved instantly.
Chris, too, I mean, can we just start with not giving them benefits? Like, and this is the thing. It's like, okay, they're living for free in these hotels in New York City. They're getting exorbitant subsidies for, healthcare and everything else. And I'm sure, they're not getting that much, they really are like net positive growth on the GDP and whatever. It's no, you're wrong. Actually, that's a lie. I don't believe you for 1 second. I know you can manipulate those numbers to get them to say anything you want to say.
It's also not sufficient. That's not the only measurement.
Also, I don't care. Okay, I don't care. Like and this is the problem by making this like a strictly economic argument. It does just become an empirical question, like do they or do they not contribute more to the GDP than they like take from the GDP, even if GDP is not the measure you want. But it's like, no, I actually don't care about that. I'm focused on something even more fundamental here, which is the sort of makeup of our country. What does the country constitute? Again, I can't stress this enough. If you live in a democracy, the fundamental question is, who are the people that get to choose the right path for their own self-determination? That is what democracy promises. It promises its people, a nation's people, the right to self-determination. So again, the fundamental question is, who are its people? And if you just are bringing in anybody who wants to be here that value the quality of being the nation's people, of having the right for self-determination, is completely subverted by that practice, okay? And we need to just get rid of that altogether. It's not popular. It's not what people want. People don't want mass immigration at this scale. It's a very small fraction of
And
our
there's nothing
of
wrong
our
with
elites who
saying
want
that.
this. Yes, of
That's
course.
not immoral. That is not against the interests of the United States. That's
It's
not
not.
a form of
No, we
racism.
won't be browbeaten by this kind
Exactly.
of like these moral cudgels. It's just like we're past that moment. I don't care. I'm sorry. Now, however, let me ask you this. I mean this sincerely, because one beautiful thing about the American people is they are so generous of spirit. Like I really think this is an incredible country, sort of imbued with these like incredible virtues and care for their fellow man. And I think that's like a beautiful thing. And don't want to descend into a kind of chaotic country of ethnic squabbling.
Yes.
Americans don't want that. And like it actually like sort of breaks my heart when I see the kind of stuff coming out of Somalia and like this intra-ethnic Somalian war over like Omar Feta and his,
Yeah.
this other
Dude.
tribe who won't vote for him because he belongs to this other tribe. Like, no, we can't live like that. Okay. Now this is all to say.
And look, we have to be ruthlessly selective about which populations are most likely to assimilate, most likely to contribute, and least likely to be a kind of net negative on whatever dimension: economic, social, cultural, political. And look, like the reality is that, like the Somali community in Minnesota, for example, we're working on a big investigative piece about this. I mean, contributes, the thing that we have discovered they contribute the most of is fraud and the exploitation of government programs. It's like endemic. And so I think that is completely fine and completely rational to say we should prioritize groups that contribute over groups that do not. Nobody has a right to immigrate to the United States. That's a decision left to us. And the reality is proportionate. I'm actually, in theory, I'm pro-immigration. Obviously, immigration. My father was an immigrant. My wife was an immigrant. But there's also comes a question of proportionality, where hey, the proportion right now in the United States is causing difficulties. Let's get it back down. Let's assimilate this wave of immigration. I believe America can do it. I'm very optimistic about that, especially relative to Europe, which is not good at assimilation.
Chris,
and then when we assimilate, and then my kids are older, they have kids, and everything is great. We can make a prudent decision at that time, but I think a shutdown and certainly accelerated deportations is necessary.
As the great Enoch Powell once said, numbers are of the essence.